So in this first trimester of the UCP party leadership campaign, there's no doubt Danielle Smith's campaign has been capturing most of the spotlight. Smith has hit the ground running with strong, decisive, and controversial policy statements that have actually captured national media attention. In a race with a field of 9 contenders so far, it can be tough to stand out among that crowd. Smith's managed to break away from the pack, at least for the moment, and early polls indicate that it could be paying off for her. Now, will this strategy pay off in the long run, though? Smith is focusing heavily on Western alienation and has drawn a deep line in the sand with Ottawa. Her proposal of a sovereignty act calling for Alberta to refuse to cooperate with any federal laws or policies that might adversely impact the province, it's a battle cry. And of course, the usual suspects in the Laurentian Canadian pundit core were predictably infuriated. One could almost hear Emmett McFarlane's teeth grinding from his posting at University of Waterloo while he hammered out a statement saying, "The idea is frankly so absurd and untenable, I'm not even sure it would create a crisis because it would be laughed out of court too quickly for a crisis to develop." What McFarlane may not understand is that the supporters being courted by Smith don't care what he thinks or any of the federal courts might think about this policy. Many of the UCP members who voted to remove Kenney as the leader of the UCP did so because they felt he was being too soft and standing up for Ottawa against federal incursions. They're itching for a battle with the feds and would love to implement something like a sovereignty act while saying to Ottawa, "What are you going to do about it?" Smith's not taking a secessionist stance, but she's walking a fine line near it. Her proposals could provoke clashes with Ottawa that might lead to a very big surge in secessionist support as the battle goes on. The Sovereignty Act could appeal to alienated Albertans, whether they're supporters of outright provincial independence or not. Gathering those regionalists in her camp gives her a solid support base to work from. These are motivated voters and workers who are going to be tough to pull away from her campaign. Now, Smith is also courting those who are still furious over lockdowns and vaccine mandates. Kenney lost a lot of support when he had to backtrack from promises never to lock the province down again back in the fall of 2021. Smith's making the promise more stridently than Kenney did and is also vowing to oppose any efforts from the federal government to restrict citizens' rights with mandates. This again will garner Smith a dedicated core of supporters, assuming people trust her promises. Kenney broke his, and Smith has broken trust with her party membership before as well. The biggest handicap Smith has in this race is her own party history. Few people have forgotten the betrayal of when she crossed the floor from the Wild Rose Party to the Progressive Conservatives, though many have begun to forgive her. So, in taking command of the news, though, with this constant releases of policy discussion, her political baggage has been pushed to the wayside. So strategically, it's been pretty smart. Her campaign's proving to be savvy and clever. She's targeting and gathering motivated voters early. There's little sense pandering to a mushy middle in a party leadership race. A candidate needs to appeal to the membership rather than the province as a whole. And this tactic could potentially lead to Smith winning the battle. But will it help her win the war? If Smith wins the leadership, she's going to have 6 months to convince Albertans to re-elect the UCP in the next general election. Now, while she's been striking all the right chords with UCP members in her leadership campaign, she's also giving the NDP a lot of ammunition to come after her leading up to the next election. It's not hard to predict what Notley's campaign strategy would be. Smith's going to be painted as an extremist and a separatist who wants to tear up Confederation while putting the health of citizens at risk. And it's going to be tough to defend against those accusations. If Smith drags her feet, though, on following through with her promises, should she win the leadership of the party, the membership is going to turn on her fast. Members have felt used and abused enough already with Kenney's bait-and-switch leadership tactics with things such as the Fair Deal panel. They're not going to have any patience for being strung along by another leader. Smith is going to have to indicate she can provide action to back up the talk, and she's only going to have a few months to do it. Smith could be the populist leader Albertans have been waiting for. Inflation pressures and a heated federal political environment is likely going to lead to more incursions on provincial jurisdiction from the federal government. A premier with an Alberta First stance could fare very well in such a scenario. Smith also, though, could create a divided environment with instability that might sour voters on the UCP and drive them back to the NDP. Smith is gambling and reaching. If nothing else, she's showing political courage and taking refreshing stances in a race where the establishment candidates have been remaining guarded with their policy stances. The UCP race is definitely not going to be boring, and I expect we're going to see some fireworks as contenders try to find some of the spotlight Smith snatched away from them. Slow, careful campaigns aren't going to cut it in this leadership race.